Emma Rodriguez had never imagined her life would look like this. At 28 years old, she was working her second shift of the day, wiping down tables at the Golden Cup Cafe as the evening rain drummed against the windows. Her feet ached and she could feel the familiar tightness in her shoulders that came from standing for too many hours. But she couldn't complain. This job, along with her morning shift at a different cafe across town, was keeping her family afloat. Her younger sister, Maya, was in her final year at the state university, studying to become a teacher. Their mother, who had raised them both alone after their father left when Emma was 12, was battling diabetes and the medical bills kept piling up. Emma had dropped out of college 6 years ago to help support them, and she had never gone back. She told herself it was temporary, that once Maya graduated and got a good job, things would get easier, but deep down, she wondered if that day would ever come. It was almost 9 o'clock when she noticed the old man standing outside. The rain had turned into a downpour, and he was huddled under the cafe's small awning looking lost and soaked. Emma had already locked the front door and was supposed to leave by 9:15 to catch the last bus home. But something about the way he stood there, his expensive coat drenched and his silver hair plastered to his head, made her pause. She walked to the door and unlocked it, pulling it open just enough to speak to him. The cold air rushed in and she shivered. "Sir, are you okay? Do you need help?" The man looked up and Emma saw genuine relief in his eyes. He was older than she had first thought. Probably in his 70s, with kind wrinkles around his eyes and a dignified bearing despite being completely drenched. "I'm terribly sorry to bother you," he said, his voice cultured and polite. "I was walking to clear my head and I didn't realize how far I'd gone. The rain caught me by surprise and my phone died. I was hoping I could wait here until the storm passes, or perhaps use your phone to call for a ride." Emma hesitated for only a moment. Her supervisor had strict rules about closing on time and not letting anyone in after hours. But this was an elderly man in a storm, and she couldn't just turn him away. She opened the door wider. "Come in. You must be freezing." The gratitude on his face was immediate and genuine. "Thank you so much. I promise I won't be any trouble." Emma led him to a table near the window and quickly grabbed some clean towels from the back. "Here, dry yourself off a bit. Would you like some tea? I was just about to make myself a cup before heading home. That would be wonderful if it's not too much trouble." "No trouble at all," Emma said, and she meant it. There was something about this man that reminded her of her grandfather, who had passed away when she was young. She remembered how he used to tell her stories and how safe she had felt with him. She made 2 cups of chamomile tea and brought them to the table, sitting down across from him. The cafe felt peaceful with just the 2 of them there, the rain creating a soft backdrop to their conversation. The man wrapped his hands around the warm cup and smiled at her. "You're very kind," he said. "I'm Marcus, by the way." "Emma. Nice to meet you, Marcus." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Marcus began to talk. He told her about his wife, how she had loved rainy evenings like this one, how they used to walk together in all kinds of weather. His voice grew soft when he mentioned that she had passed away 2 years ago, and Emma could hear the loneliness in every word. "It's the small moments I miss the most," Marcus said, staring into his tea. "The way she would laugh at my terrible jokes or how she insisted on feeding the birds every morning, even in winter. Everyone tells me time heals, but some days it feels like the wound just gets deeper." Emma felt a lump form in her throat. "I lost my grandfather when I was young, and my mom always says that grief is love with nowhere to go. Maybe it's not supposed to heal completely. Maybe we just learn to carry it differently." Marcus looked at her with such intensity that Emma felt self-conscious. "That's very wise for someone so young. Your grandfather raised you well." "Actually, it was mostly my mom. But yes, she taught me and my sister that kindness costs nothing and is worth everything." They talked for nearly an hour. Marcus asked about her life, and Emma found herself opening up more than she usually did. She told him about Maya's upcoming graduation, about her mother's health struggles, about how she was saving every penny to help make ends meet. She didn't complain or ask for pity. She simply shared her life as it was, with a quiet dignity that came from accepting her circumstances without letting them define her worth. Marcus listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and offering gentle encouragement. When the rain finally began to ease, he pulled out his wallet to pay for the tea and for her time. Emma held up her hand, refusing. No, please. It was just tea, and honestly, it was nice to have someone to talk to. I should be thanking you for the company. But surely I can give you something for your kindness? Kindness isn't something you pay for, Emma said simply. Besides, you needed help and I was here. That's all there is to it. Marcus studied her for a long moment and something shifted in his expression. It was as if he was seeing something rare and precious, something he hadn't encountered in a very long time. He nodded slowly, putting his wallet away. You remind me of my wife. She used to say the same thing. Thank you, Emma. More than you know. Emma called him a taxi using the cafe's phone, and they waited together by the door until it arrived. As Marcus was leaving, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a handkerchief to wipe his face one more time. The handkerchief was made of fine silk with the initials MC embroidered in gold thread in the corner. He tucked it back into his coat pocket, shook Emma's hand warmly, and stepped out into the night. Take care of yourself, Emma called after him. And I hope things get easier. You too, my dear. You too. The taxi pulled away and Emma locked the door behind him, gathering her things to catch her bus. As she was leaving, she noticed something on the floor by the table where Marcus had been sitting. It was his handkerchief. She picked it up, feeling the expensive fabric between her fingers, and tucked it carefully into her bag. She would keep it safe in case he came back for it. Emma had no way of knowing that the kind old man she had helped was Marcus Chen, one of the wealthiest real estate developers in the entire city, a man whose net worth was measured in billions. She had no idea that he owned half the buildings she passed on her way to work every day, or that his name appeared regularly in the business section of newspapers she couldn't afford to buy. All she knew was that she had helped someone who needed it, shared some tea and conversation on a rainy night, and made a small difference in one person's evening. That was enough for her. That had always been enough. As Emma stepped off the bus near her apartment building, the rain had stopped completely, leaving the streets washed clean and glistening under the streetlights. She thought about Marcus and hoped he had made it home safely. Then she thought about the stack of bills waiting on her kitchen table and the early shift she had to work in the morning, and she pushed the encounter to the back of her mind. She had no idea that in 3 weeks, everything in her life would begin to change. She had no idea that Marcus Chen would wake up in a hospital bed, clutching at life, thinking about her kindness and desperate to find her again. She had no idea that the richest man in the city had started searching for her, and that his search would turn both their lives upside down. For now, Emma Rodriguez was just a tired barista heading home after a long day, carrying a stranger's handkerchief in her bag and a little bit of warmth in her heart from a simple act of human connection. Sometimes that's all we get in this life, small moments of kindness that shine like stars in the darkness. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, those small moments become the beginning of something much bigger than we ever imagined possible. Part 2. 3 weeks passed, and Emma had almost forgotten about the rainy night and the kind old man named Marcus. Life had a way of pushing gentle memories aside when there were bills to pay and shifts to work. She kept his handkerchief in her drawer at home, folded carefully, telling herself she would return it if he ever came back to the cafe. But he never did. What Emma didn't know was that Marcus Chen had collapsed in his study just 2 days after their meeting. A massive heart attack had struck him down while he was working late, reviewing property contracts and business reports. His daughter, Sarah, had found him unconscious and barely breathing. The ambulance ride to the hospital, the emergency surgery, the days in intensive care, all of it had been a blur of fear and desperate prayers. Now, 3 weeks later, Marcus was recovering in a private room on the hospital's top floor. The doctor said he was lucky to be alive. They talked about lifestyle changes, stress reduction, and the importance of finding joy in life again. But as Marcus lay in his hospital bed watching the sun set through the large windows, he wasn't thinking about business or real estate or the empire he had built. He was thinking about a young woman with tired eyes and a warm smile who had shown him kindness when she had every reason not to. The memory of that evening had been with him when he collapsed. It had been with him through the surgery, floating in and out of his consciousness like a lifeline. And now, as he recovered, it had become something of an obsession. He couldn't stop thinking about Emma, about the gentle wisdom in her words, about the way she had refused payment for her kindness. In a life filled with transactions and business deals, where everything had a price and everyone wanted something from him. That simple act of generosity had pierced through his carefully constructed walls. "Dad, you need to rest," Sarah said, walking into the room with a concerned expression. She was 45, a successful lawyer, and Marcus's only child. Her mother's death had hit her hard, too, and watching her father nearly die had brought all that grief rushing back. "The doctor says your numbers are improving, but you need to take it easy." "I am resting," Marcus said, though his mind was anything but restful. "Sarah, I need to ask you something. That night before I collapsed, when I got caught in the rain, I met someone, a young woman who worked at a cafe downtown. She was extraordinarily kind to me, and I never got her full name. Just Emma." Sarah pulled up a chair beside his bed. "What cafe? Why is this so important?" Marcus struggled to find the words. How could he explain that a stranger's kindness had reminded him what it felt like to be human? That for the first time since his wife died, he had felt a genuine connection with another person. "She helped me when she didn't have to. She listened to me talk about your mother. She refused payment and just cared. I need to thank her properly. I need to find her." Sarah frowned. "Dad, you should be focusing on your recovery, not chasing after some random person." "She's not random," Marcus said firmly. "And maybe that's exactly what I should be focusing on. For years I've poured everything into work, into building and acquiring and growing the business. But what has it given me? Your mother is gone. I almost died alone in my study. This young woman, who has so little compared to what we have, showed me more humanity in 1 hour than I've experienced in years. I need to find her, Sarah. I need to understand that kind of goodness again." Sarah softened at the passion in her father's voice. She had been worried about him for so long, watching him throw himself into work to avoid his grief. If this search gave him something to live for, maybe it was worth supporting. "Okay, tell me everything you remember and I'll help you look." Marcus described the cafe as best as he could, the general neighborhood, the rainy night, Emma's appearance. But he realized with frustration how little concrete information he actually had. He hadn't been paying attention to street names or landmarks. He had been too lost in his own grief and then too absorbed in their conversation. "I'll hire someone," Sarah said, "a private investigator. We'll find her." And so the search began. Sarah hired a discreet investigator who started canvassing cafes in the downtown area where Marcus thought he had been. But there were dozens of them and staff turnover was high. Days turned into a week and there was no sign of Emma. Meanwhile, Emma's life was getting harder. The envelope had arrived on a Tuesday morning, slipped under her apartment door like a small bomb waiting to explode. Notice of eviction, 30 days. Her landlord had decided to sell the building and all the tenants were being forced out. Emma had stared at the letter until the words blurred, her mind racing through impossible calculations. Where would they go? How would they afford a new place? The deposit alone would wipe out the small emergency fund she had managed to scrape together. She hadn't told her mother yet. Her mom's condition had been worsening, and the stress would only make things worse. Instead, Emma had taken on a third job, working overnight shifts at City General Hospital as a cleaner. The pay wasn't great, but every dollar helped, and the hospital offered meals to overnight staff, which meant one less expense to worry about. The exhaustion was crushing. Emma would finish her evening shift at the Golden Cup Cafe at 9, take the bus to the hospital, work until 5 in the morning cleaning floors and emptying trash bins, then catch another bus to her morning cafe job at 7. She would work until 2, sleep for a few hours, and start the cycle again. Her body ached constantly, and she had stopped looking in mirrors because the hollow-eyed woman staring back frightened her. But she kept going. For Maya, who was so close to graduating, for her mother, who had sacrificed everything for them, for the tiny hope that things would get better if she could just hold on a little longer. It was during one of these overnight hospital shifts that fate began to weave its threads again. Emma was mopping the hallway on the 6th floor, her movements mechanical with exhaustion, when she heard footsteps approaching. She looked up to see a well-dressed woman in her 40s walking toward her, clearly distracted and upset. The woman was looking at her phone and didn't notice Emma or the wet floor sign. "Excuse me, ma'am," Emma called out. "The floor's wet just ahead." The woman looked up, startled, and stopped just in time. She was beautiful in a polished, professional way, with designer clothes and perfectly styled hair, but her eyes were red from crying. "Oh, thank you." "I wasn't paying attention. Are you okay?" Emma asked gently. "Do you need help finding something?" The woman, Sarah Chen, though Emma didn't know it, wiped at her eyes quickly. I'm fine. Just visiting my father. He's recovering from a heart attack and I'm not handling it very well. Emma's heart went out to her immediately. I'm so sorry. That must be terrifying. I hope he's getting better. He is, thank God. But it made me realize how fragile everything is, you know? How quickly we can lose the people we love. Sarah's voice cracked and more tears spilled down her cheeks. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm telling you this. You probably have your own problems. Everyone has problems, Emma said softly. But that doesn't mean we can't care about each other's. Your father is lucky to have someone who loves him so much. Sarah smiled through her tears. Thank you. That's very kind. She glanced down at Emma's worn shoes, the fatigue etched into her young face. You work nights? That must be exhausting. 3 jobs, actually, Emma said with a small shrug. But we do what we have to do, right? 3 jobs? Sarah looked shocked. That's incredible. You must be exhausted. I manage, Emma said, not wanting pity. She changed the subject quickly. Your father's room, is it on this floor? Make sure to take care of yourself, too. Hospital cafeterias have decent coffee if you need a break. Sarah thanked her and continued down the hall, disappearing into one of the private rooms. Emma went back to her mopping, unaware that she had just spoken to Marcus Chen's daughter. Unaware that she was only a few doors away from the man who had been desperately searching for her. When Sarah entered her father's room, Marcus was awake, staring at the ceiling. How are you feeling? She asked, settling into the chair beside his bed. Frustrated, Marcus admitted. Any news from the investigator? He's narrowed it down to 3 possible cafes, but no luck yet. He's going to visit each one tomorrow with your description of her. Sarah hesitated, then added, I just met the Kindest hospital worker in the hallway. She works 3 jobs, can you imagine? But she still took the time to make sure I was okay. It reminded me of what you said about that woman, Emma. About genuine kindness. Marcus perked up slightly. What did she look like? Young, maybe late 20s, exhausted, but still had this warmth about her. Why? But Marcus shook his head. Just curious. There are still good people in the world. We just have to remember to notice them. If only they had known. If only Sarah had asked the kind hospital worker her name. If only Emma had mentioned the handkerchief still sitting in her drawer at home. But life rarely works with such perfect timing. Instead, they remained like 2 planets in nearby orbits, close enough to affect each other's gravitational pull, but not yet ready to collide. Emma finished her shift as the sun rose, painting the hospital windows gold. She was so tired she could barely stand, but her morning cafe shift started in 2 hours. As she rode the bus across town, she pulled out her phone and saw a text from Maya. Mom's doctor called. They want to run more tests. She needs to come in next week. I'm scared, Em. Emma closed her eyes and felt the tears she had been holding back finally escape. How much more could she carry? How much longer could she keep all these plates spinning before everything came crashing down? But she wiped her eyes, straightened her shoulders, and got off the bus at her stop. Because that's what you do. You keep going, one step at a time, even when you can't see the path ahead. You trust that somehow, some way, things will work out. Emma had no idea that Marcus Chen would be discharged from the hospital in 3 days. She had no idea that he would insist on personally visiting every cafe on the investigators list. She had no idea that while she was struggling to survive, someone was moving heaven and earth to find her. Sometimes the universe works in ways we can't predict or understand. Sometimes our darkest moments happen right before the dawn. And sometimes, just sometimes, kindness is remembered and rewarded in ways we never expected. Emma's story was about to prove all of that true, but first, she had to survive just a little bit longer. First, she had to hold on through the storm that was coming, not knowing that on the other side of it, everything would change. Marcus Chen was not a patient man. He had built his empire on decisive action and unwavering determination, and lying in a hospital bed while someone else searched for Emma was driving him mad. Against his doctor's advice and Sarah's protests, he checked himself out of the hospital 5 days after his heart attack, promising to take it easy and follow all the medical recommendations. But the moment he got home, he called the private investigator to his study. I want to come with you, Marcus said, his voice firm despite his weakened state, to the cafes. I'll recognize her immediately, and we're wasting time going back and forth. The investigator, a middle-aged man named Donald, looked uncomfortable. Mr. Chen, with all due respect, you just had a major medical event. Wouldn't it be better to— No, Marcus interrupted. It wouldn't. Let's start tomorrow morning. I want to find her. And so they began their search. The first cafe was a trendy place in the business district, all chrome and minimalist design. The staff was young and hip, but none of them was Emma. The second cafe was closer to where Marcus remembered being that rainy night, a cozy spot with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. The owner was helpful, even pulled out staff schedules from 3 weeks ago, but Emma's name wasn't there. Maybe she was covering for someone, Sarah suggested. She had insisted on coming along, worried about her father's health. Or maybe she works at a different location in the same chain. But that led nowhere too. By the end of the first day, Marcus was exhausted and discouraged. Sarah drove him home, practically carrying him to his bedroom. Dad, you need to rest. We'll continue searching, but you can't keep pushing yourself like this. Marcus nodded weakly, but sleep didn't come easily. He kept seeing Emma's face, kept hearing her words. Kindness isn't something you pay for. In his world, everything had a price. But she had shown him that some things, the most important things, couldn't be bought or sold. They could only be freely given. What Marcus didn't know was that on that very same day, Emma's life was reaching a breaking point. She had arrived at the Golden Cup Cafe for her afternoon shift, running on 2 hours of sleep and pure determination. Her manager, Mr. Peterson, was waiting for her with a stern expression, and 2 police officers standing nearby. Emma, we need to talk, Mr. Peterson said coldly. The register came up short yesterday, $50 missing. And you were the last one to handle it. Emma felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. What? No, I counted it twice like always. There was no money missing when I locked up. The security camera shows you at the register right before closing, Mr. Peterson continued, and the money was definitely gone this morning. I'm sorry, Emma, but I have to let you go. We can't have employees stealing from us. I didn't steal anything. Emma's voice rose, panic and exhaustion mixing into something desperate. Please, Mr. Peterson, check the cameras again. I swear I didn't take any money. I would never, but Mr. Peterson had already made up his mind. He had the police escort Emma out of the cafe, and even though they didn't arrest her, there wasn't quite enough evidence for that. The humiliation was complete. Emma stood on the sidewalk, her bag of belongings in her hands, watching through the window as a new girl took over her shift. Just like that, 1/3 of her income was gone. She couldn't cry. She was too shocked, too tired, too overwhelmed. Instead, she walked to the bus stop in a daze and rode home in silence. When she got to her apartment, she found her mother sitting at the kitchen table, another stack of medical bills spread out in front of her. Mama, I have something to tell you, Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mother, Rosa, looked up with concern. Despite her illness, despite her own struggles, she could always read her daughters. What happened, mi amor? Emma told her everything. The eviction notice, the 3rd job at the hospital, and now the firing. She broke down as she spoke, all the stress and fear pouring out in great heaving sobs. Rosa stood up slowly. Her joints ached more every day and wrapped her arms around her daughter. It's going to be okay, Rosa whispered, though Emma could hear the fear in her voice too. We've survived worse. We'll survive this. How, Mama? How are we going to survive this? I'm working as hard as I can and it's still not enough. Maybe I should tell Maya to drop out, come home and help. No, Rosa said firmly. Maya is so close to graduating. She's going to become a teacher, help so many children. We don't give up on dreams, Emma. Not ever. But that night, lying in her small room, staring at the ceiling, Emma felt her own dreams slipping away. She had once wanted to be a social worker, to help families like hers navigate the systems that seemed designed to keep them down. But that dream felt like it belonged to a different person now, someone younger and more hopeful. Now she just wanted to survive, to keep her family together, to make it through one more day. She got up and opened her drawer, pulling out Marcus's handkerchief. She didn't know why she did it. Maybe she needed to touch something beautiful and fine, something that reminded her that there was a world beyond her struggles. The silk was cool against her fingers, the embroidered initials elegant in the dim light. She wondered briefly about the old man, hoped he was well, and then tucked the handkerchief back into its place. The next morning, Emma dragged herself to her remaining morning shift at the other cafe. Her boss there, Mrs. Kim, was much kinder than Mr. Peterson had been. When Emma told her what happened, Mrs. Kim shook her head in disgust. "That man is a fool," Mrs. Kim said. "I've known you for 2 years, Emma. You're the most honest person I've ever employed. If he was smart, he'd check his own pockets before accusing you." The kindness brought tears to Emma's eyes. "Thank you, Mrs. Kim. That means everything." "Are you going to be okay? Financially, I mean." Emma forced a smile. "I'll figure something out. I always do." But the truth was, she had no idea how she would figure it out. The math didn't work anymore. Even with 2 jobs and the hospital cleaning shift, they couldn't afford a new apartment's deposit, her mother's medical bills, and Maya's last semester fees. Something had to give, and Emma was terrified of what that something would be. Meanwhile, across the city, Marcus and his investigator were visiting the 3rd cafe on their list, the Golden Cup. Marcus's heart jumped when he saw the familiar awning, the cozy interior. This was it. This was where he had been that rainy night. "I remember this place," he said excitedly. "She worked here. Emma worked here." Mr. Peterson looked up as they entered, his expression shifting to obsequious politeness when he recognized Marcus Chen. Everyone in the business world knew Marcus's face. "Mr. Chen, what an honor. How can I help you?" "I'm looking for someone who worked here about a month ago," Marcus said. "A young woman named Emma. Is she working today?" Mr. Peterson's expression soured. "Emma Rodriguez? No, she doesn't work here anymore. I had to let her go yesterday for theft." Marcus felt ice run through his veins. "Theft, that's impossible. Emma would never steal anything. With all due respect, Mr. Chen, I've been running this cafe for 15 years. The register came up short and she was the last person to handle it. I had to make a difficult decision." "Show me the security footage," Marcus demanded. Sarah put a hand on his arm, worried about his blood pressure, but he shook her off gently. "Please, I need to see it." Confused but unable to refuse Marcus Chen, Mr. Peterson pulled up the footage on his computer. They watched as Emma counted the register, double-checked it, and locked everything up properly. Marcus watched her tired face, the careful way she handled every task, and his heart ached for what she must be going through. "Roll it back further," Sarah said suddenly. "Let's see who handled the register before Emma's shift." Mr. Peterson hesitated, then complied. And there, clear as day, was footage of Mr. Peterson himself taking $50 from the register earlier that afternoon, pocketing it quickly when he thought no one was looking. His face went pale as he realized what they were seeing. I was going to put it back," he stammered. "I needed it for something, just temporarily." "You stole from your own register and blamed an innocent woman," Marcus said, his voice cold with fury. "You destroyed her reputation, took away her livelihood, and for what? $50? "Mr. Chen, please, I can explain." "Where does Emma live?" Marcus interrupted. "I need her address." Mr. Peterson pulled it from his employee files with shaking hands. Marcus took the paper, looked at the address, a modest apartment building in a struggling neighborhood, and turned to leave. Sarah followed him out, Donald, the investigator, close behind. "Dad, what are you going to do?" Sarah asked. "I'm going to fix this," Marcus said. "I'm going to find Emma and make this right. That man destroyed her over his own mistake, his own theft. She's probably terrified right now, wondering how she'll survive. I can't let that stand." They drove to Emma's address, a 40-minute trip through parts of the city Marcus rarely visited. The neighborhoods got rougher, the buildings more run down, and Marcus felt his determination growing with every mile. When they arrived at Emma's building, a worn-down complex with peeling paint and broken railings, Sarah's eyes widened. "She lives here? Working 3 jobs and still living here?" "That's what I'm trying to tell you," Marcus said softly. "About how hard life is for people like Emma. About how one small disaster can destroy everything they've built. Come on." They climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. The elevator was broken, and Marcus knocked on apartment 3B. His heart was pounding, and he wasn't sure if it was from the exertion or the anticipation. This was the moment he had been searching for. Finally, he would see Emma again. Finally, he could thank her and help her and maybe, just maybe, find that connection again. But the door that opened wasn't Emma's. Instead, a young woman who looked remarkably like Emma but younger. Maya, though they didn't know it yet, stared at them in confusion. "Can I help you?" "We're looking for Emma Rodriguez," Sarah said gently. "Is she home?" Maya's expression became guarded. "Who's asking?" If you're from a collection agency or the landlord, she's not here. We're not here to cause trouble, Marcus said quickly. Please. Emma helped me about a month ago, and I've been trying to find her to thank her. My name is Marcus Chen. Maya's eyes widened. Even struggling college students knew that name. You're the Marcus Chen? The real estate developer? Yes, and Emma showed me great kindness when I needed it. I just want to talk to her. Is she here? Maya hesitated, then shook her head. She's at work, at the hospital. She's been working overnight cleaning shifts there, but Mr. Chen, if you really want to help Emma, she needs help now. She lost her job yesterday, we're being evicted, and my mom is sick. Emma's barely holding on. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. While he had been lying in a hospital bed and then slowly recovering, while he had been conducting his leisurely search, Emma had been drowning. The woman who had saved his spirit was fighting for survival, and he had been too slow to reach her. Tell me everything, Marcus said, his voice heavy with emotion. Tell me what Emma needs, and I swear to you I will make it right. And so Maya did. She invited them in, made tea with shaking hands, and told them Emma's story. She told them about their father leaving, about their mother's diabetes, about Emma dropping out of college to support them. She told them about the eviction notice and the false theft accusation, and how Emma was working herself to death trying to hold everything together. By the time she finished, Sarah was crying and Marcus had to sit down, overwhelmed by the weight of it all. Where is the hospital? Marcus asked finally. I need to see her, tonight. City General. But Mr. Chen, Emma is proud. If you just show up and offer her money, she'll refuse. I know my sister. She'll think it's charity, and she'd rather break than accept charity. Marcus nodded slowly. He understood pride. He respected it. But he also knew that sometimes pride could be the enemy of survival. He needed to find a way to help Emma that honored her dignity while saving her from this impossible situation. I have an idea, he said, but I'll need your help and your mother's permission. Emma is trying to save your family. Maybe it's time her family helped save her too. As Marcus laid out his plan, as Maya listened with growing hope, Emma was across town at City General, pushing her cleaning cart down another hallway, unaware that everything was about to change. She was tired beyond words, scared beyond measure, and completely unaware that the old man she had helped on a rainy night had finally found her. She didn't know that he was coming for her, that he was bringing help, that her long nightmare was about to end. Sometimes we're drowning and we don't even realize someone is diving in to save us. Sometimes rescue comes from the most unexpected places, wearing the most unlikely faces. Emma's rescue was coming. She just had to hold on for one more night. Just one more night and everything would be different. Part 4. Emma's shift at City General that night felt endless. Every hallway stretched on forever, every trash bin weighed 100 pounds, and every second dragged by like an hour. She kept thinking about the math, the impossible, cruel math of her life. Rent due in 2 weeks, her mother's prescriptions running out, Maya's final tuition payment coming up, and now, one job gone, leaving a gaping hole in the budget that she had no idea how to fill. She was emptying a trash bin near the 6th floor nurse's station when she heard footsteps behind her. Emma turned to find a well-dressed older man walking toward her, accompanied by a woman she recognized, the visitor she had spoken to in this same hallway weeks ago, the one who had been crying about her father. For a moment, Emma's tired brain didn't make the connection. Then the man smiled, a warm and genuine expression that seemed to light up his entire face, and suddenly she remembered. The rainy night, the chamomile tea, the conversation about grief and kindness. Marcus, she said, confused. What are you doing here? Looking for you, Marcus said simply. Emma, I've been searching for you for weeks. Emma felt a strange flutter of panic. Why would he be searching for her? She barely knew him. Is everything okay? Are you sick? Is that why you're at the hospital? I was sick, Marcus admitted. I had a heart attack 2 days after we met. But I'm better now thanks in part to you. To me? Emma shook her head, completely lost. I don't understand. I just made you tea. How did that? It wasn't the tea, Marcus interrupted gently. It was the kindness. The conversation. The reminder that there are still good people in this world. Emma, do you have any idea who I am? Emma looked at him more carefully, at his expensive clothes and the aura of authority he carried. The woman beside him, his daughter, Emma realized, was watching her with an intense expression that made Emma self-conscious. "You're Marcus. That's all I know." "Marcus Chen," he said, and watched her face for recognition. "I'm a real estate developer. I own Chen Holdings." The name did ring a bell, something Emma had seen on buildings downtown, but she still didn't understand why that mattered. "Okay, but I still don't see why you were searching for me." Sarah stepped forward. "Because my father wanted to thank you properly. Because you showed him kindness when you had no reason to, and it meant more to him than you could know. And because," she paused, glancing at Marcus, "because we learned what happened to you. The false accusation, the job you lost. Emma, my father had your former boss pull the security footage. He was the one who stole that money, not you." Emma felt the world tilt. "What?" "Mr. Peterson at the Golden Cup Cafe took $50 from the register and blamed you for it," Marcus said, anger evident in his voice. "We have the footage. We've already contacted a lawyer. He'll be held accountable, and your name will be cleared." Emma's knees went weak, and she had to lean against her cleaning cart for support. She had been living with that accusation, that black mark on her character, the fear that she would never be trusted again, and now in one moment it was gone. He really did it? He stole the money and blamed me?" "Yes," Sarah said softly. "And we're so sorry that happened to you. No one should have to go through that." Emma felt tears streaming down her face before she even realized she was crying. All the stress, all the fear, all the exhaustion came pouring out in great, shuddering sobs. She tried to hold it together. She was at work. She needed to be professional, but she couldn't stop. Sarah moved forward and wrapped an arm around her shoulders, letting Emma cry against her expensive coat without complaint. "It's okay," Sarah murmured. "You're okay now. We're here to help." When Emma finally got herself under control, she pulled back and wiped her eyes. "I'm sorry. I don't usually fall apart like that. It's been a really hard few weeks." "We know," Marcus said. "Your sister told us." "Emma, I came here tonight because I owe you a debt of gratitude and I want to repay it. But more than that, I want to help you because you deserve help. You've been working 3 jobs, supporting your family, doing everything right, and life has been punishing you for it. That's not fair, and I'm in a position to change it." Emma felt a surge of pride mixed with embarrassment. "I appreciate that, but I can't accept charity." It's not charity," Marcus interrupted. "It's an opportunity. Emma, I'm expanding my business into community development. I want to start a foundation that helps working families. People who are doing everything right but still falling through the cracks. I need someone to run it. Someone who understands what these families are going through because they've lived it. I need someone with integrity, compassion, and the kind of strength it takes to work 3 jobs while maintaining their kindness." "I need someone like you." Emma stared at him. "You want to hire me? To run a foundation?" "Yes, but not as a favor. As a legitimate job offer. You would start with a 3-month trial period. You would need to learn about nonprofit management, fundraising, community outreach. Sarah has agreed to mentor you and will provide training. If after 3 months you're not a good fit, we part ways professionally. But I believe you will be. I believe you're exactly what this foundation needs." Emma's mind was reeling. A real job, a career, not just another minimum wage position. The chance to actually help people the way she had always dreamed of helping. "What? What would it pay?" Sarah pulled out a folder from her bag. $65,000 a year to start, with benefits including health insurance for you and your family. The position would also come with assistance finding housing, since we learned about your eviction situation. Not free housing, she added quickly, seeing Emma's expression, but access to affordable units in buildings we manage, units we reserve for working families. Emma couldn't breathe. $65,000. Health insurance. Help with housing. It was more than she had ever dreamed of making. It was enough to change everything. "This is real? This isn't some kind of trick?" "It's real," Marcus said. "Emma, when you made me tea that night, when you listened to me talk about my wife and refused payment for your kindness, you reminded me what my wife always believed. That business should serve people, not the other way around. She wanted me to use our success to make a real difference in people's lives. After she died, I lost sight of that. I just worked and worked, building for the sake of building. But you brought me back to what matters. This foundation is my way of honoring her memory and your kindness." Emma looked down at the folder in her hands, at the job offer typed out formally on thick paper with the Chen Holdings letterhead. She thought about her mother's medical bills and Maya's tuition and the eviction notice sitting on her kitchen table. She thought about the handkerchief in her drawer, the small act of returning it to its owner that had somehow spiraled into this moment. "I don't know anything about running a foundation," she said quietly. "Neither did I when I started my first business," Marcus replied. "But I learned. You can too, and you'll have help every step of the way. The question isn't whether you know how to do it now. The question is whether you want to try." Emma looked up at him, at his kind eyes and his patient smile. She looked at Sarah, who was nodding encouragingly, and she thought about the choice in front of her. She could refuse out of pride, keep struggling on her own and watch her family sink deeper into poverty. Or she could accept this chance, this incredible, impossible chance, and see where it led. "Yes," she whispered. Then louder, "Yes, I want to try." Marcus's smile was brilliant. "Then welcome to the team, Emma. When can you start?" "I need to give notice at my jobs," Emma said, her mind spinning with logistics. 2 weeks, probably. "Give your notice tomorrow," Marcus said. "We'll cover any income you lose during the transition. And Emma, your first task will be to help us find other people like you, people who need a hand up, not a handout. Can you do that?" Emma felt tears threatening again, but this time they were tears of joy and relief and disbelief. "I can do that." Sarah stepped forward and handed Emma a business card. "Call me tomorrow morning. We'll set up a meeting to go over everything officially. And Emma, thank you for helping my father. He hasn't been this animated, this alive since my mother passed away. You gave him something to care about again." After they left, after Emma finished her shift in a daze, after she rode the bus home as the sun rose over the city, she walked into her apartment to find her mother and Maya both awake, waiting anxiously at the kitchen table. "Emma," Maya said, jumping up. "Mr. Chen's daughter called. She said they found you. Is it true? Did they really offer you a job?" Emma nodded slowly, then faster. "It's true. It's all true. Mama Maya, everything's going to be okay. We're going to be okay." Rosa stood and pulled her daughter into her arms, and this time when Emma cried, it was with relief and gratitude and hope. "I'm so proud of you, mi amor. I always knew your kindness would come back to you." "I just made him tea," Emma said through her tears. "I just treated him like a person. Sometimes that's all it takes," Rosa said wisely. "Sometimes that's everything." Over the next 2 weeks, Emma's life transformed. She gave notice at her remaining jobs, though Mrs. Kim was sad to see her go and made her promise to visit. She met with Sarah 3 times to learn about the foundation's goals and structure. She found an apartment, a real apartment with 2 bedrooms and a working elevator, in one of Chen Holdings' affordable housing buildings. The rent was reasonable, calculated based on income, and they could actually afford it. Maya's tuition was paid through a scholarship program the foundation was launching. Rosa's medications were covered under Emma's new health insurance. And Emma herself was given a small office in Chen Holdings' downtown headquarters, with her name on the door and a desk overlooking the city. On her first official day of work, Emma wore her best clothes, which Sarah had diplomatically supplemented with some professional pieces, and arrived at the building with butterflies in her stomach. Marcus met her in the lobby personally, smiling warmly. "Ready to change some lives?" he asked. "Ready to try," Emma replied. Marcus walked her up to her office, and Emma's breath caught when she saw it. The space was simple but comfortable, with a window view and everything she needed. On her desk was a small framed photograph, Marcus and a beautiful woman with silver hair and kind eyes, clearly his late wife. "That's Helen," Marcus said softly. "My wife. She would have liked you very much, Emma. You remind me of her in all the best ways." Emma picked up the photo carefully. "She's beautiful." She was, inside and out. This foundation carries her name, the Helen Chen Foundation for Working Families. Every person we help, every family we support, is a tribute to her memory and to people like you who believe in kindness above all else. Emma felt the weight of it, the responsibility and the opportunity. "I'll do my best to honor that. I promise. I know you will," Marcus said. "Now let's get to work. We have a lot of families out there who need what we're building." As Emma settled into her new role, as she began reaching out to social services and community organizations, as she started identifying families who needed help, she thought often about that rainy night in the cafe, how one small act of kindness had rippled outward in ways she never could have imagined, how treating someone with dignity and compassion when you had no reason to do so could change not just one life, but many. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Running a foundation was challenging work, and Emma had a lot to learn. There would be setbacks and frustrations and moments of doubt. But for the first time in years, Emma felt like she was moving towards something instead of just running away from disaster. She felt like her life had purpose beyond survival. And every time she felt overwhelmed, every time she questioned whether she belonged in this new world, she would look at the photo of Helen Chen on her desk and remember Marcus's words, "Kindness above all else." That was something she understood. That was something she could build her life around. That was something worth fighting for. The richest man in the city had been searching for her, and she'd had no idea. But now that he'd found her, now that their lives had intersected again, Emma was determined to prove that his faith in her wasn't misplaced. She would build something beautiful from the ashes of her struggles. She would help other families find hope the way she had found it. And she would never forget where she came from, or the people still fighting the battles she had finally won. The first 3 months of Emma's new role flew by in a blur of learning, meetings and occasional moments of doubt. There were days when she sat in her office staring at budgets and grant proposals, wondering if she had made a terrible mistake. She didn't have a college degree. She didn't have experience in nonprofit management. What made her think she could do this? But then she would meet with a family, a single mother working 2 jobs and still unable to afford rent, a father trying to pay for his child's medical treatment while keeping food on the table, an elderly couple facing eviction after a lifetime of hard work. And she would remember exactly why she was here. She understood these people because she had been these people, and that understanding was worth more than any degree could teach. Sarah proved to be an incredible mentor. She taught Emma about fundraising strategies, board management, community partnerships, and the complex web of regulations that governed nonprofit work. But more than that, she taught Emma to trust her instincts. "You know what these families need better than any consultant or expert," Sarah said during one of their weekly meetings. "Don't let anyone make you doubt that. Your lived experience is your greatest asset." The Foundation's first major initiative was a rental assistance program, combined with financial counseling. Emma had designed it based on her own experience, understanding that most families didn't need a permanent handout, just help bridging the gap during a crisis. They provided 3 months of rental assistance, but required participants to attend financial literacy workshops and connect with job training resources. The program launched in April, and within the first month, they had helped 12 families avoid eviction. Emma met with each family personally, listening to their stories, helping them create plans for stability. She remembered what it felt like to face those eviction notices, to feel like the world was collapsing around you, and she made sure every family knew they weren't alone. Marcus checked in with her regularly, but he never micromanaged. He trusted her to run the foundation her way, offering guidance only when she asked for it. Their relationship had evolved into something Emma hadn't expected, a genuine friendship built on mutual respect and shared values. One afternoon in May, Emma was reviewing applications when Marcus knocked on her office door. "Got a minute?" "Of course." Emma gestured to the chair across from her desk. "What's up?"